Welcome to the Don't Skip the Legal podcast. I am your host, Andy Contiguglia. What is more dangerous than a lawsuit? Give you a second to think about that. The reality, it is bad exposure because one tweet, one viral video, one leadership misstep, and suddenly your business becomes a headline, and for all the wrong reasons. In this episode of the Don't Skip the Legal podcast, we are talking about exposure, what it is, why it matters, and how two global brands, United Airlines and Balenciaga, learned about it the hard way. I'll show you what they did wrong, how they could have handled it better, and what every business owner can learn from their mistakes. So let's dig in. I'm Andy Contiguglia, your corporate casual Denver-based business attorney, bringing you the Don't Skip the Legal podcast, where you can listen in on the real stories, the real stakes, and the real legal lessons from real business owners just like you. These behind-the-door conversations about business are instrumental to your success. This is where the deals are made, negotiations are discussed, and company problems are identified, leading you to overcoming the challenges we all face in our business. This podcast is your invitation to where the real business happens, and also where the best ideas take place. So let's get behind the doors in business and break down these legal lessons. And overall, remember, don't skip the legal. All right, let's start with United Airlines. In April 2017, a United Airlines flight was overbooked. They needed 4 volunteers to give up their seats. No one bites. So what do? They randomly select passengers to be bumped from the flight. Dr. David Dow is one of them, and he refuses to give up his seat. Security is called, and they drag him off of the plane. Literally drag him off of the plane. And someone records this entire event and throws it up on social media. Dr. Dow is bloodied, he is screaming, and he is disoriented. And the footage hits Twitter, and it explodes. And in this case, how does United respond? Well, the CEO releases a statement saying, "Hey, I apologize for having to reaccommodate customers." Reaccommodate. And that one word told the world, we care more about liability than people. And then after that, it just got worse. An internal memo was leaked, defending the crew and blaming the passenger for this behavior. And the damage, the stock dropped, the media just came out and lit them up in a firestorm. And in this particular case, the brand trust of United was shattered. So when we look at this event, what can we learn and what do we think they should have done differently? What should they have done instead? I think it's important that companies like United lead with empathy. All right. The way that they behaved in this particular event was unacceptable. We're sorry, this never should have happened. Lead with empathy. This event was unacceptable. It's unfortunate it happened, but it never should have happened. They should have also acted fast. Within the first 24 hours, they should have issued a public apology from the CEO on video, telling everybody what had happened and that they were apologetic for what the event caused, right? A policy pause and a meeting with Dr. Dow. It's important that they speak like a human. Reaccommodate sounds like you are moving hotel guests and not dragging someone across an airplane aisle. I remember when I was a kid, years ago, I was out in Hawaii and we were visiting a church. And one of the patrons at the church was walking out and slipped and fell on the grass. But when she slipped and fell, she cut her leg, literally sliced off her calf. I mean, it was horrible. It looked like a fillet of her calf. And she had to be taken to the hospital. I remember vividly seeing this when I was a kid. And my father, who's a doctor who was there, was like, "Hey, you guys better go meet this woman. Whoever was in charge of the church better go meet this woman at the hospital and offer her some flowers and some champagne and a lot of empathy here, because this could have been a lot worse. And really, she needed comfort and empathy under those circumstances." That event just sticks with me in terms of how you can respond and how empathy can really take a real solid place in the response. United really should have taken responsibility here. They should have stepped up to the plate and they should have reaccommodated things a lot differently than the way that they did. And they didn't. That was their fundamental flaw. The other event that I want to talk about is the Balenciaga event, right? In late 2022, Balenciaga, the fashion company, drops a holiday ad campaign. It features kids holding teddy bears wearing bondage-style gear. Remember this one? And in the background, legal documents referencing a child pornography case. The backlash on this was immediate and it was massive. Celebrities distanced themselves from the brands. Consumers were outraged at what they had put together. And what did Balenciaga do? They blamed the production company. They blamed the people who were in charge of putting this ad campaign together. They filed a lawsuit and they went silent. They tried to blame others. But of course, what they didn't recognize was somebody internally within Balenciaga approved this approach. Somewhere in the board of directors, somewhere in the CEO line of other C-suite people, this event was authorized. What should they have done? Well, they should have taken full responsibility. All right, this was a mistake. It should never have happened. And we own what happened. We tried to do something one way and it was a massive fail. Right? Pull back the curtain. We have launched an internal investigation and we are sharing the results publicly. We are trying to find out how something like this could have happened, how it got through our corrections. This is something that we need to be prepared to address. And they just didn't do that. And they also needed to rebuild trust through action. They needed to partner with child advocacy groups. They needed to donate. They needed to educate. And they did it. They needed to do something in real time, something to show that this event was not who they were, that this was not a description or something that defined them as a fashion company, but instead was just a bad mistake. They needed to take action and show that this was the type of behavior that they were opposed to. So here's what these brands got wrong. They tried to protect themselves legally, and I respect. I've been a lawyer for almost 30 years, and I understand how many companies want to take the approach that we need to protect ourselves. And when you are dealing in crisis management and you are dealing with people who are trying to manage their reputation and protect themselves from a lawsuit that might be coming from another direction, you need to include your legal counsel in this discussion. But always taking a legal approach and trying to protect yourself from a legal standpoint might not always be the best approach. You need to pick and choose, because the moment you draw the line in the sand and take a legal stance and say, legally, this is where we're going to be, you are cutting off all other avenues of rehabilitation in this particular case. All right. So trying to protect yourself legally, maybe a right thing to do, but something I think you need to approach with everyone, with all the key people in mind. All right. They needed to protect themselves publicly, and that's what they failed to do. Failing to protect themselves publicly is what ended up damaging the brands during these timeframes and the massive amounts and losses of money and exposure. Exposure in this particular case, in both of these cases, I think really isn't just about liability. It's about building trust. And when it comes to public relations, and when it comes to making sure that your brand is protected, it really is about trust in your community. Because the reality, once your trust is gone, so is your audience. Now, I've been in this game for a long time. I've been a lawyer for almost 30 years. So as a business lawyer, crisis consultant, I have worked with companies that have survived lawsuits just fine, but they have crumbled under the exposure that they didn't see coming. There are insurance policies. There are many different ways that companies are protected when it comes to lawsuits. But what you can't ever repair is your trust in your community, whether it's with your customers, whether it's with your employees, whether it is with the families of the people who were hurt in certain events that happened within your organization. It's important that you address these issues and take them into consideration as you decide what your path forward is going to be. Protecting yourself from a legal standpoint, always an important thing to do, but it can't only be the thing that you do. There have to be other components involved. So protecting yourself and surviving lawsuits just fine is one thing, but crumbling under the exposure that you didn't see coming is a completely different one. A lawsuit will eventually go away. Your trust and your exposure within your community and your depreciation in your brand can last forever. And really, this is why I started Athea Strategies. I wanted to help business owners prepare for the moment when the world is watching, because exposure isn't just a legal issue. It is a leadership issue. And brands that survive, well, they respond like people, not corporations. So if you're wondering how exposed your business might be, I have created a brand reputation audit, and you can download it at atheastrategies.com/audit. And in under 10 minutes, you'll be able to uncover where you, in fact, are vulnerable and how to fix it. All right, so don't wait for the crisis. Prepare for it now. All right, if this episode made you think, well, share it, please. Tag a business owner, send it to your leadership team, or post a clip online. I'll even give you a quote to use. The first thing you say in a crisis becomes your brand. You can tag me at AJCESQ on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. That's where you can find me. So let's talk about what exposure really means in 2025. So let me leave you with this. If someone took a screenshot of your worst moment tomorrow and posted it, would you be proud of what they found? Would you be prepared? Or would you scramble to explain it anyway? The hidden cost of exposure isn't just reputation damage. It's distraction. It's lost deals. It is lost trusts. And the brands that win aren't the ones that avoid every mistake. They're the ones who are ready when those events hit. So here's your next move. Hit subscribe, share this episode, go to atheastrategies.com and get your brand audit done today. Thanks for listening to the Don't Skip the Legal podcast. And until next time, protect your brand because no one else will. And in the end, remember, don't skip the legal. Good luck. Thank you for listening to the Don't Skip the Legal podcast. I'm your host, Andy Contiguglia. I hope you enjoyed our time together and this great opportunity to peek behind the business door and examine the legal lessons in business. If you're keen to hear how these lessons can be applied in the real world, well, join us next week for another episode where you can listen in to another business success story. As always, you can head over to contiguglia.com/podcast to sign up to our email list, as well as check out all the links and resources in our show notes. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at AJCESQ. Thanks again. This is Andy Contiguglia reminding you to don't skip the legal. Good luck. The legal information contained in this podcast is intended for general informational and entertainment purposes only. It should only be used as a starting point for addressing your specific legal issue. The legal information I talk about does not create an attorney-client relationship between you and me. This podcast is not a substitute for an in-person or telephonic consultation with a lawyer who is licensed to practice in your jurisdiction about your specific legal issue, and you should not rely on this legal information for those purposes. You understand that questions and answers or other information contained in this podcast are not confidential and are not subject to attorney-client privilege. I am not providing you a legal service. Every legal case is different, and past performance is not indicative of future results. Please consult your own attorney.